Harjot. I'll just check if Harjot is joining and then we'll start.
I have joined, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Hello, everyone. So, this is the second day of our training, and we'll be going through today with the entity types which we left on the first session, and then maybe some of the topics we'll cover of, more of KYC, which is another slide. But I'll focus today that you understand everything which we've learned so far. So let's repeat what we have learned, just a quick recap so that it is refreshed, because I don't assume or I don't believe that you all will remember everything. Okay. And of course, you're not supposed to, but then just so that you can link with the entity types, which I'll teach you. So let's start with why we do KYC. So KYC is basically know your customer. We collect information of the customer in order to maintain the records are up to date. So it can be individual we do KYC for, it can be entities we do KYC for, and in order to determine like which or what information we need to collect, we need to know that okay, this entity type is partnership or private limited company or public limited company, in order to actually obtain that information or what kind of information is required. Yes, so that is why we are knowing your entity types. Although you don't have to go into much detail of every document or everything, you have to just know the gist of it. That okay, this is partnership, and you should quickly, get into the okay, these are the things which I need to collect. That's it. So nothing in much in detail, but yes, for that you have to actually know it. That is why we are doing it, and like we did it for maybe we learned of what all uh, 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 we did. First we understood like what entity type is. Okay, entity type, entity is a legal person or a distinct person recognized by law, so it is formed in there. That is entity type. I will not okay. Then what are the various entity types we learned? It was private limited company, which is privately held or the shares are privately held. Then regulated entity, which is governed by a body. Okay. And then government entity, which is owned 100% by the government, like railways. State-owned entity, which is like most 50% or more is, held by government or state, and rest may be private. So that is state-owned entity. Then public listed entity whose shares are listed publicly. Then we are yet to do investment fund. Trust we did, where there are three parties, trustor, trustee, and the beneficiary. And then we did limited partnership. So yes, we have to do today investment fund, charity. Charities also we did, I believe. We have to do special purpose vehicle and limited liability partnership. So let's start with I would say limited liability partnership, because we left with limited partnership. Okay, so let's go in there. Okay, LLP. Okay, so let's start. Don't read what is written right now. I'm going to just explain you in simple words that the word limited liability partnership. So, limited means limit, of course. Liability only, the word only says it's very limited liability partnership. So, whoever the partners is in this partnership, the liability is limited, okay, to the extent of their investment. For example, I come in and maybe Harjot comes in and we say, okay, I will invest 50%, like 50,000, and Harjot says he will invest again 50,000. Then it is like if the company goes bankrupt or whatever, I am only liable to the loss or the profit of 50,000 only. okay, my personal assets or my home assets or whatever I have, my personal wealth will not be encountered in this limited liability partnership. Okay, so let's read now. So it is a business structure that combines elements of traditional partnership with limited liability protection. That is first point to be retained in your head. Then it is a distinct legal entity from its partners, and personal assets of the partners are generally protected. So this is totally a distinct legal entity. However, the partnership which we did earlier, it was like there was one general partner, if you remember, and he was responsible for every and anything. If something goes wrong or if something goes right, all the personal assets were in stake. But here it is only and only for the amount of investments they make in. So if you lease the last line, each partner's liability is limited to the amount of their investment. So that is the only main thing you have to actually keep in mind. And then some of the key features of it is limited liability, as we just discussed, that one of the primary advantages if you are in LLP is that your personal assets of partners are protected from any business debts and legal liabilities. Okay, so that is one point. And with that, it also explains that each partner's liability is limited to the amount of the capital contribution. Like I just explained, whatever amount they contribute, they are only liable for that much amount and nothing more and nothing less. And the second attribute or the second thing in LLPs are that it is flexibility of management. So partners can actively participate in day to day operations, and the level of management involves there is no one who has superior, there's no one who's inferior kind of a partner. So there is no strict requirements or any centralized management. Every partner is like, it is like 50-50% of everything and anything in LLPs. Then, if we go ahead, everybody understood what LLP is? Any questions on, what it is? All good?
Priya, when we
Mhm.
discussed about this limited liability partnership,
Yes,
something it is related to like limit. Yeah, last week we read about this
yes,
limited
yes.
partner, right? In general
I will
partner and
just,
limit.
yes, this was the one. So here, limited liability. I will just distinguish for you to just understand if that's your question, Khushbu.
Mm.
Like you want
Yes,
me to
yes.
just, okay. So in limited liability partnership, there was two, wait. Uh, 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 Wait, okay, here it is. Limited partnership. Yes. So in limited partnership, what happened that there has to be two partners. That is the rule of limited partnership. Like one has to be a general partner and one has to be a limited partner. So general partner here is like involvement in day-to-day management that is there, and they have unlimited personal liability, like unlimited. It is not like, okay, if he invests 50,000 in there, he's only liable to that. No, if something happens, his personal assets, everything would be in stake. Like if you lead the last line of this means that the personal assets can be used to satisfy business debts, and only one person used to be a limited partner. Okay, don't get confused with LP and LLP. Of course, both says, limited liability partnership or limited partnership. But there's a difference in here that one has to be a general partner and limited partner, and one is limited. So only one partner here can, the assets are limited to whatever they bring into the company, but one has to be a general partner. That is one of the major difference. However, if whatever we are learning today, that is limited liability partnership, here each partner is only liable to the amount they invest in. There is no general partner involved here. Only this is the main difference here.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, most welcome. So I know it sounds like little strange, but yes. So you don't have to worry when you are doing KYC. You have to actually know that, okay, if I'm doing LLP, then I have to collect two partners, general partner and limited partner. Okay, and when I am doing LP, then I have to collect 2. And when I'm doing LLP, then I have only partners who are limited liability. There's no general partner, so you don't have to worry about collecting general partner. So yes, and then going ahead, what you will have as a document when LLP is formed, of course, the LLP agreement. You must have some documentation, right? Like for whatever it is, like if there is a partnership, there is a document which is maintained. Now this is known as LLP agreement. And what will you have in that? There will be like rights, duties, responsibilities, who are the partners, what if something happens, what will happen to get a resolution on it, and other operational details, like every documentation of every establishment have when something comes together. So it is no less than that, it is just same. So you also don't have to worry what is in their LLP agreement, but you must know that okay, this is the actually authentic document which is required in order to know who are the partners and what all they do. Okay, and the main parties of limited liability partnership here are the partners, which we discussed that, they are the individuals, that they may be entities that form the LLPs, and each partner contribute capital, shares, profit, losses. So there is one party which is partners. And listen carefully, the second is designated partners. So designated partners is not a very natural thing like it has to be, but yes, some organizations do have designated partners, and they are nothing but they are just they're just designated, or partners they typically have some additional responsibilities, like it is said, just like if everybody's equal. For example, I come in, Harjot comes in, Harju comes in, and we are our partners. So we are just running the business, on our own terms and conditions. So there one has to be one something main as a leader, right? Who can actually see, okay, what are the things we are responsible for? If everybody becomes like casual, things won't work out that way. So that is why we have someone known as designated partners. So they maybe typically have some additional responsibilities, not in terms of like shares. If someone is putting more, it's like money. But yes, they have some just responsibilities to ensure that regulatory compliance and everything is maintained properly in order to run the business smoothly. So, of course, all the partners will be involved in the management, but this partner or the designated partner will have some additional take in the organization. So that is the only difference. You just consider it as one of the leaders in the partner, nothing more. So if you find a document which is LLP partnership and you find a partner named as designated partnership, you don't have to worry. You just know, okay, he is like, you can reach out to that partner for each and everything, but it's not like, okay, he's something new party which is involved. Okay, so in many documents you may find, and in some of the documents you may not find. So if you find, that is just a thing you should know, and you don't have to worry about who is he and what is he. Okay. So any questions on this? I'm not going into much detail, and like I said, I will only, give you information as perspective to KYC. So you have to just know first thing, LLP, there are partners who have equal responsibilities and liability. And secondly, there are two like things or two parties. First is partners and second is designated partners. And just the key features which we study is flexibility of management. Everybody can manage that. And limited liability is just the definition of what limited partnership is. Okay, so shall we move ahead?
Yes.
Okay, can anybody tell me we did charities or not? I'm not sure. Like, I believe we did, but then
Uh, I think we did not have completed this charity portion.
right. Okay, let's do that. So charities are very, very easy peasy thing in KYC if it comes in. So it is like, of course, everybody must have heard the word charity or what charity is. So it is benefit of the public or a specific group. So they are non-profit organizations. They do not earn profit out of it. Okay, so they're just for the welfare of the people, and like it is said. And so whenever a charity comes into place, so need to know that charities always serve. I think we did it, but then I don't know. I will repeat it because I remember telling you about social causes and stuff, but no worries. So,
Yes, we did it.
yeah. Okay, no worries. We have taken this. Let's start with it. So, charity purpose, main purpose is what? To serve a good public relations, or for example, people do it like to teach, under like for people like this do it for the educational purposes, or maybe for health purposes, or to support some art or stuff like it is said. So these are the various purposes for which charity is formed, and it is for non-profit status as mentioned. And of course, you cannot force people. It is a voluntary contribution, and many charities are tax exempt, so they don't have to pay tax because they are charity and because they're not earning or they're non-profit. That is why they are exempt from tax. So these are charities, and charities you only have to collect, some of the documents which says, okay, this charity is formed with this name, and who are the voluntary partners involved in it. That's it. Okay, because like I said, it is very easy peasy if charities comes in, so you don't have to worry much. Okay, now we go to special purpose vehicle. Okay, SPVs. Again, this also, I've encountered this entity type less as compared to other, but it does comes in. So we gonna do this. What is special purpose vehicle? By the very name of it, special purpose vehicle. Special purpose means an organization which is formed just for some specific reason. Okay. So it is like SPE or SPV vehicle. We call it just, it is an entity only. You don't confuse it. What is it a kind of a vehicle? Nothing like that. It's just a way of saying it. Like if you see on the very first line, it says like SPV, also known as special purpose entity. Okay. So you create SPV just for a special purpose or a specific purpose, and then it gets dissolved. For example, I am running a company. Okay, I am running a company, and I may form an SPV. I say, okay, I'm running a company ABC, and I form another company from ABC, says XYZ, and I say XYZ is a SPV. That means that company is formed, okay, just maybe I want to, do some uh, additional business, okay, with someone, and I create that, and that additional like business is done in the name of that XYZ, not ABC. Okay, so it is formed, and once that business work is done of mine, I will just dissolve that XYZ, and my company name will be ABC only. So people create SPVs, okay, a lot. Why? Because they maybe don't want to deal with their real company first. They want to, have another company into picture so that they can deal with their name, because there are lots of reasons. You don't have to get to evade tax. They don't want to pay so much tax. Their final company or the main company is have a projection of a lot more shares or amount, and they don't want to bring into picture that big company, but rather they create a small one that can do all the dealings, and then they can just dissolve it. It is much easier for them in tax wise or risk wise, or we will study that. So that is why they create a special purpose entity. Is that the meaning of special entity, purpose entity clear to you all? Why it is created? Okay, cool. So now we're gonna go to some key characteristics which I started explaining, that it has a limited purpose. So they are, like I said, only for a special purpose they are created, and then they are dissolved. So this purpose is often related to specific project or transaction or financial arrangement. because I have seen like many special purpose vehicles are formed maybe to buy shares of another company. They buy shares or they do some biddings and transactions and then they get dissolved. So that is why they are created. Then legal independence. SPVs, though they are part of the main company, but then they have a very separate legal entity from the sponsors or who are originators, like who form. So they have a legal dependence. It is an entity. You wouldn't say, okay, this is part of ABC, so it wouldn't have anything. It does have its separate legal identity on its own and deals with its own name. Okay. Then ring fencing assets and liabilities. So the assets and liabilities of a SPV are typically isolated from those of its sponsors. Okay, the ring facing helps protect the sponsors from potential risks and insulates the SPV activities. So this point, which I am saying, is the main reason why SPVs are formed, because they don't want to put, like if they are dealing with their own main entity, they don't want to put their own assets and liability assets into stake. Okay, so that is why they create another entity in order to avoid that risk. So the assets and liabilities, they're typically isolated from those of the sponsors or the originators. Their personal things are not included here. And the word ring fencing helps to protect sponsors from potential risks. Any risk that may arise, like if they turn into any loss or something, then only that, the company which is formed will be affected and not their main company. Okay, so if there is like a bankruptcy remote, so or anything, it's just that small company which is affected. So it is much easier for them to, just let that go, that small company, rather than have effect on that big company. So that is the main reason why they create SPVs for. And like if you read what is bankruptcy remote, or SPVs are often structured to this, meaning that the bankruptcy of insolvency does not automatically lead to bankruptcy of their sponsors. For example, if that company is bankrupt or is not able to pay its debt or any loan, then it does not mean that all the sponsors or their so you feel people always create that just to avoid all these risks, and when they are done, they just dissolve it. So it's very easy. So in terms of KYC, when you are doing, so you must know, first of all, the reason why SPV is created. Okay, for example, I created an SPV to buy shares of another company. So that is one of the reasons why I create SPV. So the reason of the SPV created, who are the sponsors or the originators, like who created it or which company created it, you must know that. And rest we're going to do in later stages. I don't want to, put burden, because these are the entity types. You don't have to worry too much. It will like be processed as in one it comes into picture. Okay. And now, like I said for SPVs already, that it is a set scrutinization, that they're commonly used to save assets with financial assets such as loans or mortgages, a transfer to the SPV. Don't worry too much about how it is done. So what they can do, I'll just explain you in simple. So when they create a new entity, okay, they can raise capital out of it. Okay. So they can do, like I said, they can buy shares or do things like that. So maybe with their own company, they cannot do it because it is limited, or maybe they have some restrictions. But when they create a small company, SPV, as I said before, it is a separate legal entity. So it can do anything on its own. So one of the main reasons also that, they can do asset securitization, that they can buy, some loans or assets or something like that from that, and they can run or they can do that business on their own for some special purpose. So that is also a thing. The risk management, of course, if your personal things are not in stake and you are creating a small, organization through which you are dealing, so there is less risk involved in it. So that is, and then project financing. And like it's written, an SPV may be created to own, operate, and finance a special project such as infrastructure development or whatever constructions. Then It helps to isolate the project's financial obligations for sponsors or other activities. So that is also one of the benefits of it. So whatever I've told right now, whatever is in there, the key characteristics are basically the benefits of, when a special purpose entity is formed can have. So, or the reasons why you actually create a small legal entity. If it wouldn't help anybody, then why would you create, right? So it is something beneficial to the sponsors or the originators who do that. So that is why they create it. And once maybe it is like created for 6 months or a year or a 5-year thing. So once that time period is, over, then it gets dissolved and they just dissolve that entity. Do you have any questions on this?
Is this entity something like shell company?
Yes, like you can say for sure. Yeah. But then you don't have to go into much into detail. You just have to know, okay, special is formed for special entity purpose. Once that purpose is solved, it is you don't have to actually in KYC go into okay, risk management, project financing, and all these characteristics. Not of that use. I'm just telling you for your understanding. The only thing you need to know, okay, it is created for what purpose, who created it, like that. Okay.
Okay.
So I think I have only, yes, okay, I have the parties, I forgot. So there is one originator or sponsor. So like I said, the originator or sponsor, the person or the entity who creates it, right? The entity may transfer its assets or they want to do whatever they want to do with that, but originator or sponsor are actually the entities like ABC Limited, which I quoted in my example, is the originator who originates XYZ. So that you need to know the investors and the purchasers. So they are entities that provide capital to the SPV. Of course, ABC created XYZ, but who has put in the money for a company to be formed? There would have been someone who put money. So they are basically investors or purchasers of the entities who provide capital to the company. Okay, so they are the one you need to know that parties. Then trustee or the custodian. So a trustee in this is appointed to hold legal title of the assets on behalf of SPP and investors. Okay, who will there has to be someone who holds the legal title of the assets. Okay, there couldn't be in we create just an organization and just give assets or everything on their name or invest capital. There has to be someone who holds that title, so that is a trustee or a custodian. And then at last an administrator may be appointed to handle these tasks of record keeping, reporting, because of course if a legal entity is formed, the management has to be taken care. It cannot be like, okay, if ABC has created XYZ, ABC people will only manage, XYZ things. No, because XYZ is a separate legal entity. Everything which XYZ does is it's in its own. Okay, it is very distinct from the main ABC Company Limited. So there has to be someone who manages that, who administers that, right? So it will have all these administration people involved in it, a trustee who is appointed, and you must know the investors or purchasers who have invested money or capital in that company, and then the originator, which company originated it. Because a special entity purpose entity is formed, then of course there has to be one major entity which has formed that. So you have to know that. So there are 4 things you need to remember in terms of KYC, and these are the 4: the sponsors, the purchasers, trustee, or you can say the custodians, and the administrator. All clear in this?
Yes, Priya.
Okay, thanks, Kushbu. Then there is one more left, which is fun, which I wanted to take into last. Okay, guys. So this is funds, which is also like in KYC, you might need to do a lot of funds, and like funds do come in. So, and uh, funds is like you don't have to remember what kind of funds or what it is. You just have to know that, okay, this is a fund, what it is, and what requirements I need to collect. Okay. So from the basic investment fund, what you can understand is it is like the first line. I will not read the whole para, but just the first line, which says an investment fund is a pooled financial vehicle that gathers capital from multiple investors. So now, what is fund is I explain in a very simple language, like Harjot, Harshda, Khushbu, I have, some amount, maybe thousand rupees we have, okay? And now I want to invest somewhere where I can get a return. Okay, if I only have 1,000, if I invest 1,000, something like that, I wouldn't get, like, it's not too much amount where I can get some return on it. I know it's a very small amount. So what does fund do is it takes the amount from the investors. Of when there is a fund, it takes amount from me, from Harjot, from Kushbu, from everybody, and then when the whole amount is combined, it becomes how much? It becomes like 4,000. And now that 4,000 amount is invested in something. It can be like diverse portfolio. It's not like, okay, they're investing on this. They can invest in, stocks, bonds, whatever XYZ things. And whatever is the profit, it will be distributed among the four, right? If you invest individually 1,000 something, first of all, you have to have some limit. So if it is like below limit, you cannot invest. If it is appropriate, also, you will not know, okay, where should I invest, whether this will give profit to me, or whether I should go to mutual funds, like stuff like that. So you have to actually think when you're doing it on your own. But when you invest in some funds, they will automatically see, okay, this, bonds are giving you more returns, so let's invest this amount in bonds, and then whatever will be the profit will be distributed to the investors. So that is what the fund does. So it takes the money from the investors or the people, from multiple investors. This is